I am the truth, the way, and the life. No one shall get to the Father except through me. That's John 14:6. And this is part of our Easter edition. So whether you are someone of faith or not, Christian or not, I'd like to invite you to ride along as we explore some elements of faith and belief. And also, so there'll be a little bit of storytelling, and some of this might trigger you if you're one of those types and challenge some of your ideas in terms of the nature of reality and life. But we're going to have a little bit of fun and be playful with the universe through Yahshua today, giving much respect. I'll start it out right now. I once had a near-death experience, and while I was in the hospital being transferred from a smaller hospital to a main metropolitan one in New York City with severe peritonitis, check this out. I got a nasty scar, all right? And we're going to share a little bit later. You might have gotten a glimpse of my belly fat. We are going to discuss manifestation rituals and how that works with an example of my rapid physical transformation that's already taken place in April, which we're going to explore that as well. Welcome. And as I'm sporadic and moving around, I want to share that I've been going through all of the previous episodes. We are now on episode 14, okay? And I've gone through a lot of the other episodes, just here and there, doing minor edits on the front end, the back end with the intro, outro, as well as adjusting some of the sound. But basically, whatever's there, we're not editing that. So if I laugh, if I cry, I make mistakes, whatever, we just put it out there. Just like, because the reality is, doing these live streams, it's like a metaphor to life, okay? You basically, there's no off switch, and again, the rule is you can't check out. So the thing is, it's happening, okay? And at some point, it's going to be game over. But through this process of life, it's almost like life is a long form version of these weekly live streams. But yeah, so if you, in your own life, if you make errors, you make mistakes, you course correct, you learn, okay? It's coming to me now. I'm loving the stream of consciousness. I just heard from somewhere that they said there are, instead of wins and losses, they called it wins and lessons, all right? So you got wins and lessons, baby. And what we're going to discuss today, like I mentioned, is it is now Easter. So we will really dive in a bit about what that is, what it means, what it symbolizes, and we'll expose some hypocrisy. Speaking of hypocrisy, ever since, so when that's why I'm rocking my DQ shirt again, honoring my father, Duncan QUARLESS, as I was a little child. I just had some ideas of some nutty stories, like being in his garden and going through the garden with my dad and being like, wow, what's this, Daddy? And he's like, oh, that's a tomato. And I'm like, oh, and what's this? And I had these big zucchinis, right? And I'm going through, and then I found this plant, and it was a vegetable, but there were no veggies on it. So I was like, what's this one? And my dad explained, oh, that's called, all right? And, I must have been like 3 years old. And I was like, and he goes, this one's a little bit different. The policemen don't like it. He tried to explain it to me when I was 3 years old, but he told me, don't worry about that one. Focus on the tomatoes. And by the way, as I'm sharing this story, cherry tomatoes from DQ were absolutely the best. And of the other vegetables he grow, like the zucchini, I'm talking at 3 years old. I'll post some other stuff I have from my photo album and stuff. But I mean, I'm 3 or 4 years old holding this gigantuan zucchini, the key, the secret was in the fertilizer. So what he would do is go and shovel horse shit and bring it, and that was the foundation for the garden. So we would go and give it to, give these vegetables out to friends and family, and people would love them. And wow, they're so scrumptious and delicious and juicy, and they were eating poop. All right, now you know. So anyway, but the key was not the fresh horse crap; it was manure. Let's keep it professional, or let me demonstrate I have some higher level of my lexicon is a bit better than saying horse shit, okay? So the horse manure couldn't be the newer green stuff. It was like very old. We'd go to the farm and they'd be like, yeah, go in the back, So in the back there'd be these piles and they were like really old and dusty, and that was the key. That was the manure you'd need to use, okay? So, and the reason I bring up my father and these lessons that he taught me, one of them was about farming, right? Or having a garden, let's say gardening. And it just reminds me now, one of the last times I saw him several years ago was when he was part of a community garden. So as an older man, getting a little senile and all that, he actually lived in a townhouse. So he didn't have a yard anymore, but there was a community garden, and he went and he really loved that garden, and he would grow his veggies and stuff again. So, and I have images and memories of that moment with my dad with the garden. So, but what I want to get to is a biblical quote that he ingrained in me as well as a child, and that is, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." Matthew 7:1. Go blame. All right. And when I was very small and absorbing like a sponge, right? Kids, it's called the formative years from age 3 to 7, and I would argue even before then, because ages 0 to 3 is where Mr. Jim Q, the concept, the brand, is teaching linguistics and social skills and all of that. So absolutely from birth, right? As soon as they start to get a sense of they're in this realm, right? There are lessons to be learned. But let's stay with me here. From age 3 to 7, this is considered the formative years where children are in like a theta state at all times. So they're very open and susceptible to different ideas and theories and belief systems, and they absorb that and take that on, and then they continue on through their life as they get into, as they hit double digits and become adolescents and all that. They continue on through life and develop and grow, but the seed, if you will, of part of their character gets shaped in this period. So when I was super small, he kept making this point, and I didn't quite understand, because he wouldn't give an idea and then say, and that's what this means. He would give ideas like pieces of a puzzle, and then leave it with me to ponder, like, well, what's he, I'm like a little kid. I'm like, what's Dad talking about? So when he would make this point about judge not, it's basically judge not or you will be judged. And he would make the point that this was a Christian passage. And then as I continued through my life, like in later years, Christians would come to me and say, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your personal savior? Right? And it was like, whoa, it was like intense. But what would happen is, it was almost like there was a desire. So number one, it was like I got the sense of like, are you on my team? Like, are you one of, are you, does this term, like if they receive a yes, it's like, oh yeah, right? Like you're one of us. But if they don't get a yes, or they get some hesitation, it's now through, they have an intense belief in what they believe, right? So they will then do whatever they can to like convert you, right? And this is almost like, if you think about like the carrot and the stick, it's definitely like a stick approach, because the belief is so strong that there is, and we'll discuss this later, this idea of what's the term? Stay with me now. Things are congruent. It's slipping me. I'll get to it later. And I want to just touch back real quickly, because it's live. I've done live shows in front of live audiences. I'm on television, etc. And when something like this happens, this is for you. There's some error, there's some slip up, you trip, you know, like literally, not just through your words, you slip, whatever. And I shouldn't have said I'm working on that. I'm doing very well with that, right? If you're anyone who has followed me over time, this is something that you can work on, getting rid of your ums and ahs and replace them with a pause. Pause for effect. If you make a mistake or an error, you just go with the flow and focus on the content you are delivering to the people. If you're a comedian, you want to make the people laugh. If you're delivering some sort of presentation or message, your objective is to get the message delivered and received in a way that people are open to that. That's your focus, not on you as the messenger, okay? This is critical for anyone that wants to level up in their life. If you have some concern about public speaking or doing live streams, etc., that's a key takeaway, okay? So, with that said, I was talking about congruency, right? Incongruency, that's what I was searching for. I lost it, I moved on, etc. But that's what's happening in people's lives when they have a belief system, and through that belief system, they want you to have that same view. It's like, hey, this is what I see. Do you see this? And when you don't see the same thing, something is unsettling with them. So the takeaway that I got as a child is the ones that, I'll just speak candidly, okay? The message I got, through time, and it was like, oh, he was basically, it's like a broader concept about people shouldn't throw stones when they have a glass house, right? Or it's like when people are just like someone who embodies Christianity or what the principles are of being a Christian, and then they're like judging you, or they're coming with this like negative thing, like you're not one of me. This is not the true nature of what a believer is. So a believer, they believe so deeply, you can sense it, and it's basically, what's the term? There's an aura around them. There's a way, there's a nature to them in terms of how they engage with the world and how they think about themselves and others. And this process of embodying the Holy Spirit, of really, that's what is the magnetic pull that brings people. That's what converts people, okay? So it's almost like when there's this intensity, it almost feels like there's a sense of doubt. Like, I need you to confirm that you believe what I'm saying, so then this reinforces that my belief is real, that my belief is true. So if you genuinely have this belief, you wouldn't need the other person. You'd like it, it'd be great, because as a missionary or as someone who wants to help grow their tribe or their congregation, this is how I think it would be more naturally done, okay? And sure, like in sales, let's say, you can't just accept a no, right? You gotta, it's not like, hey, I think that this item or this service or whatever would be a good fit for you, and I'd like to explore if it's, and they just say no, right? I'd like to explore with you to see if it's a good fit, and then they're like, nope, not interested. Do you just say, okay, bye-bye, right? Or do you say, well, why would, what are your thoughts on that? Or have you, do you want to engage and explore a little bit more and see if this really is a good fit, right? So the bigger lesson with judge not lest ye be judged. There's a greater principle in terms of life. Like, anyone judging or hating are not people with virtue. That's the key. Regardless of your religion, your faith, etc. If you're a hater, then you clearly have issues and the virtue is lacking. Okay? That's the message that I received. And then the finer point message in time as I grew older, and I would engage people of different faiths, and there was this need to try to convert me. I would sense that desperation, if you will, like that doubting feeling, and I would remember that passage my dad told me, and the irony is that it's a Christian passage. I was like, oh, And while I'm just rambling and sharing, because again, it's the Easter edition. So I'm not, and I want to come with it like this. This episode, I will discuss, and again, like I've discussed in previous episodes, there are hopefully ideas, principles, stories that are helpful to you that will resonate with you, and you can take that and incorporate that, or there's a little lesson, just like today, that thing I heard, you have wins and lessons, not losses, okay? Just something simple like that you can take with you. If that has happened, then the purpose and objectives are finished. Good, all right? So, but at the same time, the intention and purpose for me, Jim QUARLESS, as I'm hosting these chronicles for this point, perhaps at some point in the near or far future, QUARLESS Chronicles Live will continue on without me or with other guests, guest hosts, whatever, okay? So I'm open to that idea. But as the founder of QUARLESS.com and the one with the mic right now, I would like to take this opportunity in this episode to leave my beliefs and my thoughts here just as a record, okay? And so the point is, I'm a layman, I'm no biblical scholar, I'm no faith leader, so whoever you are out there, take whatever I'm saying with a grain of salt. And so what you're going to get today is there'll be some fact, like if I mention, for example, judge not lest ye be judged, Matthew 7:1, right? That's factual. But some interpretations of the meanings of things like I just shared may be totally off, or you may have a different belief. But again, judge not lest ye be judged. Oh, it's so brilliant. So it'll be a mix of facts, fiction, opinions, some stories, all right? So we'll just kind of play with it in a respectful way to Yahshua, aka Jesus, all right? So we're giving love and respect. When I was 19 years old, I got a really bad stomach ache, like nasty bad. And I started throwing up, but I thought I would tough it out. And that was on day one. On day two, I just felt off, but it felt like I just needed rest, okay? By the third day, the irony, on the third day, I suddenly kicked back really bad, and I felt so sick, like my whole abdomen was swollen, and I woke up, and I needed to actually go to school, and I told my dad, I don't feel well, and I felt freezing. I was super cold, and I was sweating. And in that process, so my dad was like, we gotta take you to the doctor. So we went to the doctor. At the time, I was in Ossining, New York. So I was maybe like an hour or so north of the city, New York City. And we went to my local, to my private doctor, my personal doctor. And as soon as he came in, right, I was in the waiting room. As soon as he checked me out, he checked my vitals. He was like, "Oh man!" And oh, while I was waiting for him, I'll never forget. I was leaning down, looking at the floor, and just sweat beads were going droop, 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 droop. Like I was like something was really wrong. He comes out, and immediately he checks a couple of things, and he goes, "We need to get you to the hospital immediately." And he said, "Your body's shutting down. You're dying. So let's go." Right. So my dad, we went into my dad's car, went to the first hospital, because as soon as I went in and they were checking me out, I'll never forget, there were two doctors with my dad talking over on the side. And then he came and said, they weren't exactly sure yet. They thought it was some sort of appendix problem, but they didn't want to do surgery because there was a concern. I learned about later that they thought I was going to die in the hospital, so they didn't want that responsibility. They didn't want to cut me open and do experimental surgery. So then an ambulance emergency drove me, which was brutal, because now the pain kicked in something fierce in my abdomen, and it was like boop, 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 like we're in New York, so it's like the potholes and stuff. So the ambulance sped to, not sped, I mean, come on, they're being reasonable. It's not like, they were being reasonable, but the point is, they got me to Montefiore Hospital in New York, and that's when everything started to get worse, right? So they laid, I remember laying on a stretcher, and this young doctor came in. There was a group around him. It was like a training or whatever. And as soon as he walked in and he saw me, he goes, oh, and they checked me out and stuff. He goes, watch this. Poop, and he poked my belly, and I was like, no! And he goes, I know what it is. It is a case of peritonitis. So his appendix has already burst. It's gone several days, or it's gone a long period of time, and now the insides are starting to all get infected with the acidic poison from the leakage. So all of my organs were infected at this time, and that means my body's about to shut down. I.e., that means I'm about to die, right? He didn't share at that time, this young doctor, he didn't share at the time. Obviously, I didn't die, because I'm here now telling you the story. But at the time, I knew something was really bad. And I just want to make the point, I knew that I was a couple of hours away from death, because on a subsequent visit after I was in recovery, he shared that point. So he came and visited, like, whoa. He was a young doctor. He wasn't the main surgeon. The main surgeon was an older guy. But he came in and he was all like, anyway, like positive, but like, whoa, bro, like young, like, bro, you were like dead. Like within a couple hours, you were gone, bro. So I'll just share, because we're getting to my Jesus moment, my Yeshua moment. So I was laying down, and my father was talking to one of the doctors, and he kept looking over at me, talking to the doctor, looking over at me, but he had this look like you'll, but I can sense it's like he thought I may die, right? So at that moment, I'm not going to get emotional. I'm thinking about the reality that was going on through my mind. And what was happening was I was actually angry. And I grew up, just so you understand, my background. So I was raised Christian, Lutheran. I got my, I did my confirmation, went to Sunday school and did that sort of thing. Wasn't particularly religious at all, but had this sort of idea that I'm Christian and Jesus is the savior, and this kind of idea, but I wasn't particularly religious at this time. And at 19, I thought I was invincible, okay? And as I'm thinking about this, I gotta double check my history. I might have been 18, but the point is, I was quite young, around this age, and in my mind, it's like I was life. I had everything in front of me, life in front of me. Other people died. This is what was going on in my mind. Other people died. Whatever the age is, doesn't matter. I don't die. Like, this is impossible. This is about congruency, right? It wasn't matching up with my belief. And I thought, I had I'm a good person, and there was a good enough connection with God or Jesus. Like, Jesus is not going to do this to me. And then suddenly, I'm there on this hospital bed, excruciating pain, knowing that I could sense it, I might die here, right? So instead of, I thought it was a test. So it was almost like God, Jesus, right? So in my understanding, the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So it's like Jesus is the one sort of representing. Jesus is my rep for God, right? That's the connection. And this is a test. So I'm supposed to, at that point, I was supposed to proclaim my loyalty and beg to be saved and for forgiveness for not being so connected and all this, and I rejected that idea. So I got angry at Jesus, at God, and I said, I don't die, I don't get sick like this. Why would you do this to me? I refuse to do that. I reject you. I said like that, right? So I was like, I refuse this, right? And just so you understand, like, what the process was, it's almost like nothing else matters. So any possible thing you could think of, like you hear a sound, and then the sound, whatever it is, you hear a sound, you're part of your subconscious is like, what's that sound? And then it loops back, doesn't matter, you're about to die. And then it's like, there's a fly, bzz, oh, a fly, doesn't matter, it loops back, you're about to die, you're about to die, you're about to die, you're about to die, it just keeps looping, right? It's like insane. Any possible thought that's not you're about to die, immediately the thought emerges and then loops back to like, none of it matters, you're done, you're finished, right? And it was already at this point where I don't know, I didn't know at the time like what was going to happen. I just felt so lost, right? And it was like, I don't know. It was maybe like I don't know why I rejected being saved at the time with this idea. But this was at the moment where everything was looping. It just was like, and I was becoming like crazy. And at that moment, I felt the lightest touch right here, just super gentle. And when I felt that, my whole body just relaxed. And the message I received in a feeling, just in a sense, the message was like, relax. Don't worry about it. And it was almost like, it was like, maybe you're going to check out now. Like, maybe I'm going to take you now. Maybe I'm not. But it's not your job to worry about it. Just accept what's coming. So then I just sat there, played there. And then it was like, I'm ready. Like, okay. It was fucking heavy, right? And then, so in this experience, the pain didn't go away at all, right? And as time went on, and this is 20 plus years ago. As time went on, it was like, what was that? Was it shock? You know what I mean? Like it was so surreal. And just to share so that was the experience. That was it. I still had massive pain. Oh, and that was the point too. This is so important to the point of this story. The pain was so bad when I was feeling this pain and I was rejecting Jesus and God. I wanted the pain to stop. Like I was so pissed. Like I don't die, I don't get sick, and this is bullshit. This pain needs to stop. And it was like, you gonna take me? Take me, mother. It was like that. It was like so intense. I'm not playing the game. I'm not gonna beg to anybody. It was all crazy like this, right? So my mind was just crazy. And that's when it was like this overwhelming sense came to me. I was calm. The pain didn't go away. They then took me and they brought me to the operating table, the operating room. And they didn't, and I kept asking for painkillers. I was like, yo, I need painkillers. And the doctors and nurses and stuff were like, this is like hours before I went to the surgery. And they were like, we don't want to mask the pain. We need to understand what's going on. And I'm like, just give me painkillers, man. I don't care. Make the pain stop. So we went into the operating room and there were, someone at my feet, someone at my shoulders. And they were like, we're going to need you to help. And I'm 200 pounds. Maybe at the time I was a bit less, 180 something. Actually, we'll discuss this later. I'm way more than my target weight right now, but we're getting there. So then they were like, help us lift you, help us move you. And I was like, no, the pain. Then, they got me down. They put something on my face. I breathed in and out, right? And then I was out. And I heard a voice say, Jimmy, if you can hear me, squeeze my hand. And in total darkness, I held a hand. And then I woke up later. I had that memory. When I woke up, I was laying in a hospital bed. A tube in my nose going down into my stomach, sucking out any sort of liquid, anything. I had IVs running here. I had on my belly here, I had a tube sticking out. I had a tube sticking out with a jar, like sucking pus. I had a catheter tube in the jammy, in my penis, all the way through, sucking out urine. And the scar itself was never stitched. They originally had the stitchings there ready to close it, but it was just open like a slab of meat. Imagine like a big thick steak sliced in half, raw, right? Big raw steak sliced in half. That's basically what my ab looked like. So the scar now it's a pretty nasty scar. And what else? I had a breathing mask on, and I laid in that bed for 7 days, day and night, with if I was either awake or asleep, conscious, unconscious, and I just laid there for 7 days. There was I had a TV I was able to watch, but that was it. And then I ended up, there was a process of rehabbing, getting up, walking. I remember I started to try to make a move. No food or drinks for 7 days, just laying in that bed. And I was so in tune with and grateful to Jesus, to God, for sparing me. And from that moment on, I've always had a deep appreciation for life. It's like every day is a free day. And sometimes I will lose that. I'll miss that. So it's always good to renew it, right? And be appreciative of this life and this opportunity, and not to squander it personally with screwing off and letting life slip by, or squandering it by not being a light for others and helping others to lift them up and shine the true nature of what the Christian faith is. So I would not say that I'm a Christian, because the Christian faith or doctrine, etc., says that you have to believe that Jesus Christ is the only way to God. And I want to share something with you. This idea, and I just want to share that hand that was holding me, that told me to hold his hand, that was DQ. That was my dad when I was on some heavy drugs after surgery, and he was just reaching out, holding my hand, making sure I'm all right. Okay? And that's part of why we need to make sure that Duncan QUARLESS's legacy lives on well beyond his time, my time, your time, our time, baby, into the future. Okay? So I'm sort of jumping around. I needed to share that story with you. And I also wanted to share about non-judgment, because many years later, when I've discussed this before, but I went to a place called Plum Village. It's a Buddhist group. They have monasteries. It's not very big. There's maybe, 300 to 500 monks and nuns total around the world. It's a very small sort of community, and they have these little, a monastery. They have monasteries in different places in the world. There's a few in the U.S., 2 or 3 in the U.S. They have one in Thailand, also in Hong Kong, where I'm based. And I went to a retreat, and just I want to cut through everything, but to share this point, because they, it's like a different belief system, but the vibe and the energy and the sense is totally non-judgment, which is what I was understanding, right? Judge not, lest ye be judged. So I go to these monks, and they're very chill, they're very non-judgmental, they have their own way of doing things, but it's very magnetic, right? You see how they are, how like their nature, the way they communicate with each other. And I actually had there was a monk who stood up to speak. And one of the times I went, he stood up to speak, and he got like emotional. He started crying in front of everyone, and like they're just very real, And the reason I'm sharing this is I saw a video with the leader who has recently passed away within a few years ago, Thich Nhat Hanh, Thai. I may have mentioned him in previous episodes, but he's the founder. And the point I want to make, I don't want to harp on this too much, is I saw a presentation of his, and his point was, it was all about non-judgment. And he said, I don't know about other paths, but I know about this path. And I know this path is a true path, because we'll have people that come to us, and we and others will witness transformation. They'll come for a 5 or 7 day retreat. They'll come and spend time with us. And over these days, you can witness transformation. And he mentioned, somebody that's 40 years old, a man. He said there could be a 40-year-old man, 40 years old, who has seen the sky his whole life. But when transformation comes, he will see the true nature of what the sky is. And that totally resonates with me, because at the time I was 40, and when I first went, I was like, I'm 40. The universe is giving me a message directly. The message is about non-judgment and being open to what God really is. And that was the main point. It was like, as a little boy, I hear my father teaching me, judge not, or you will be judged. And then I find myself 30 plus years later in this environment where you can physically sense, spiritually sense that there is a good nature, a good energy, non-judgment, the community, people are happy, people feel good, people are okay to just through it's I kept getting emotional and crying, but I can best describe it as like electricity flow, and my body, this conductor or whatever of electricity, was not strong enough. It's like I had I'm a standard cable, but you had industrial strength electricity flowing through my cable, and it's like popping and fizzing and snap crackling and all that, because of the power of the spirit flowing through me. And the physical result that people would see was me like crying and trying to catch my bearing and all that. And it was like I didn't even care. It was like I wanted to experience it. It was like beautiful. And if people saw that and witnessed that, it's like let proclaim that shit. You know what I mean? This shit is real. So that's where I learned about non-judgment. Also, on Easter, several years ago, there's a story I heard about a child that was in trouble. And the child needed help from other people. And this small, vulnerable child who was in danger asked for help, needed help. So there were people that were available to help, who were close to the child, who knew the child. Those people were Christian. And those Christian people that knew the child and could help the child and had the means to help the child because they had resources and capital and intelligence and connections. You know what happened? They didn't help the child. But you know who did reach out and make an attempt to help the child? It was a Muslim man. And this Muslim man, with his own resources, ability, knowledge, stepped in and made an effort to save the child. So the irony was, this was on Easter Sunday. On Easter Sunday, those Christians turned their back on the child, and a Muslim man stepped in and tried to save the child. So in essence, the Muslim man was the savior to the child on the Christian day of the Savior. So when I heard this story, it's almost like I'm getting all of these different messages, and the messages of non-judgment and of the Buddhists, these good-natured Buddhists that are able to connect with God, this Muslim and you know what's happening now with world events and the drama, and I promote, Ode to the Marine Corps. I just want to make a point. I'm all good on time. All's good on time. Kimmy? Okay. Just letting you know. All right. So, ooh. So with everything happening in the world, there are all different kinds of people here with all different types of backgrounds and faiths and cultures, and what's resonating, what's coming through, the message that is absolutely clear on this Easter Sunday is that goodness is universal. This spirit, the God energy spirit, flows through humanity and is available to everyone. And with that said, this is for everyone out there. What if, okay, this passage, John 14:6, that comes from, that so many Christians, this is the foundation of Christianity, okay? The foundation of Christianity, John 14:6 states, I am the truth, the way, the life. No one shall get to the Father except through me. That passage that is spoken in modern English, I'm sure it's translated in modern languages throughout the world, that, stay with me on this little journey here. The original language was Aramaic, right? And then let's also think about all the translations since then, like from Aramaic to Latin, even English, Old English from 1,000 years ago, you would not be able to understand it, okay? So from Old English, we have missing scrolls, missing books, things that were rewritten, right? The King James version of the Bible, he didn't have any hidden agenda in there, okay? So what I present to you is, throughout all of this time, 2,000 years of multiple changes in the language and everything that I had just mentioned, is it possible that the accurate translation for this passage is not I am, but it is my actions? My actions are the truth, the way, the life. No one can get to God except through the same actions. That's the true meaning of John 14:6 in my realm, in my interpretation, which means that Christ consciousness, the true nature of Christianity, is universal throughout humanity. And it's for those who embody the Spirit of God, this good nature, where if you see someone in trouble, you help that person. And you practice non-judgment, right? There's even the idea of what would Jesus do, right? When someone encounters a situation, they don't know how to handle it or what to do, they say, what would Jesus do? The actions are the key, right? That's the philosophy. My actions are the truth, the way, the life. No one can get to God except through these actions. All right, you feeling that? I hope so. So now what we're going to do, we're rocking it. Anyway, we're 50 minutes in. We're definitely not going to be going an hour and a half or 90 minutes anymore. Plus, part of it is the download, upload time, transcribing, getting the notes, all that takes a lot. So we were talking about going 30 minutes. Today we're going to go about an hour, but that's partly because it's such a special day today. And it's like, even though I've had other experiences where I can sense God, like I shared with you, but my original experiences was with Jesus. So it's like, my sense of it is like the belief, the absolute belief is like a reflection. It's like a mirror. So God, there's some nature. I have my song, You Best Believe, Best Believe. I've been thinking about the divine pure nature of our God. Spirit science. Spirit science says we're from Mars, and that's kind of odd. Spirit science, that's kind of odd. I think anyway, it's been a while since I performed that. I'm actually not performing that song live, but I will post it. So it's available now. You can find it. Let's do this. It's super important, super critical. We're going to focus on, we spent the day giving a shout out to Yahshua, which is actually the Hebrew Aramaic type way to say Jesus. I knew a Jesus where I grew up. Jesus, there's a lot of Jesuses all over the place in Spanish speaking countries. So Jesus is like in English or in England, America, whatever, you'd call people Jesus. So lots of people are called Jesus, but Yahshua is the true name, right? If we lived in that time, Yahshua, right? So believe in the Yahshua philosophy. Absolutely. Okay. So I hope with what I'm sharing, my Muslim brothers and sisters, my Christian and Buddhists and the others out there, shout out to the Hindus. Okay. So if you are out there and you have a good nature, you have your own belief system, you have your own customs and rituals, but can practice non-judgment of others, absolutely. We are brothers and sisters through God energy, okay? What we're going to do, we're a little bit short on time. We're going to end it with something beautiful called the manifestation ritual. In the last episode 13, I talked about the cycles that we have, every 10-day cycle, okay? And we are now touching on, within April, I'm focused on April, 3 10-day cycles. Yes, we have weekly cycles, and I think they're valuable and important. I follow weekly cycles, but at the same time, you have to get out of the zombie pattern of continuing the same processes. So you have to find little ways to tweak in order to evolve and ascend into your higher being state, you need to find ways to shock the system. And one of those ways is 10-day cycles. So I made a promise. I'm going to blend it in this ending part. We're going to blend accountability plus manifestation rituals. So I made a commitment that I was roughly 200, I'll tell you exactly, 200 on April 1st, or April 1st, I weighed in at 240 pounds, 240.6 to be exact, with the objective to lose 15 pounds to be 225 pounds by the end of the 3rd cycle in this month, which would be April 30th. So that is averaging 5 pounds per 10-day cycle. That was the focus. So I'm pleased to present, it's only been, we are now, I know it's the 5th on the broadcast because we are focused on broadcasting in the US. However, it is the 6th in Hong Kong, and I want to give you my current results just to let you know the thing is real. The current results are, I weighed in today at 235.8. So a tad bit shy of a 5-pound reduction already, 10 pounds to go in this month, and we still have 24 days to go. Do you think I'm going to reach the goal? Absolutely. And this is how I'm going to reach the goal, through what I call manifestation rituals. You've heard of speaking with tongues, right? Where it almost appears as like a different language, and the people are like, right? It's like something else. It's like their body, their spirit is their body is taken over by the spirit of some other energy. Okay, what we're gonna do, we're not gonna talk in tongues. The process of manifestation rituals is whispering with tongues and jaws, lips, and heads. Okay, so it's like this. Whispering. Let's take speaking in tongues, put it on the side, and let's call it whispering with tongues, jaws, lips, and heads. Okay? Whispering. And the way this process works, we have the three elements. I've discussed this process before of imagining your goal, your desired outcome or result that you want. You speak in the present, personal tense, positive present tense. You make it personal. I weigh 225 pounds, but then you state by and you put a future date on, okay? So it's this framework, which I learned from Brian Tracy, but the added element and benefit, which is what I've been practicing, you need to make it ritualistic, okay? And the way we do that is, first, let's start with, we're going to ask 3 different questions. The first question, how? The second, why? And the third, when? How, why, when is the manifestation ritual formula, ritual process. The manifestation ritual process is how, why, and when. First, how. The how is not how to do it. The how is asking a question. How do you feel? Or how are you feeling? Okay? And now in this process, you need to think that feelings have 2 levels, have 2 types. There are 2 types of feelings. One type of feeling is your emotional state, okay? The other type of feeling is literally physical feeling. And as we mentioned before, the subconscious and superconscious, as it interfaces with the ether and goes into the 5th dimension and gets you what you need, you manifest what you desire, okay? As that process happens, remember, just like I said with God, with Jesus coming, communicating with me in the hospital bed, it wasn't spoken words, it's a feeling. So what you have to do is you have to take your emotional feeling and link it with your physical feeling. And what you're doing is you're creating a positive feeling. So it would be an example of, and I'll use an example of the weight loss, okay? So there is something that Bob Proctor would do, a statement, instead of just saying, I weigh 225 pounds by X date, you would say, I am happy and grateful now. I am happy and grateful now that I weigh, okay? So what that does is that frames it that it's positive. It's making it more, it's not just a positive term, like in the grammar structure, I am not. So it's positive in terms of I am, but it's also emotionally positive. But what we do with the ritual, we go beyond that. You think of every possible word that comes to mind that's positive and helps to develop this feeling, okay? So it's like, I am so happy and grateful. I feel amazing. I'm so excited, right? You just keep looping. Oh, this feels so beautiful. I'm amazed. It's great. It's fantastic, right? What are these words that come to your mind, right? Any sort of word. You can use I am. You can use it is. I feel. You just keep going, looping, right? So but the point is, you're using your mind and you're focusing on an emotional state. As you're doing that, you're connecting the mind and the heart. Like you're starting to create this. Imagine, if you could physically imagine, like it's like the sparks are coming. You're creating the magnetic pole. And now the universe is like, what's going on here? It's starting to sense this, right? So this is what you're doing. You're saying, I feel so amazed. I am so excited. I feel so happy, right? I feel, how do you feel? I feel this feeling, right? And as you're doing that, the next point, the energy, it's sparking. Now you answer why. Why do you feel this? Why do you feel this, right? So now you're connecting immediately. You're looping in. You're looping in as you're saying all of these different things. You're looping in what the fact is. Okay? The desired result that you don't currently have, you state it as a fact. I am so excited because I weigh 225 pounds. I'm so excited and happy and I feel amazing. It's awesome. I weigh 225 pounds. I weigh 225 pounds. As you're doing this, what does that mean? You're visualizing a scale showing 225 pounds. You're visualizing yourself with no clothes on, right? Whatever, where you could truly see your body. Like, what does that shape look like with that weight? Okay? You're going through that process. And now this is the key. As you're doing that, you're looping, you're doing that. Now the next point is, the final question is when. This is where, and I'll go through it, but stay with me. The when. This is where you say a date in the future. So the subconscious, suddenly it gets it. You're feeling this now. You are this now. And suddenly when it says when, it's a future date. It suddenly creates a flaw, a problem, an incongruency within the framework. And then the subconscious, as it's interacting with the universe into the realm with no time, as that's happening, suddenly there's a problem. There is a problem, and the subconscious mind now needs to fix it, okay? And yes, there's a sense, because the subconscious mind does not know. This is what's so beautiful about this. What's great about this concept. The subconscious mind does not understand time. It only knows the now. So what you're doing is you're sort of having your conscious mind that thinks in terms of time loop back and forth between your subconscious and your consciousness. And it's creating this uncomfortable feeling in your consciousness. So what happens then is, so that's the process, okay? And you now need to fix the error. So what happens is, so for example, with dieting, with going to the gym, with the things you need to do, not eating the pizza, and instead going something more, less carbs, whatever the process is, you basically embody the new version. I feel, and this is the key, throughout the day. Let's say this is how I lost 5 pounds in 6 days. And again, I'm eating, right? I am doing, however, I'm doing one main meal a day, a protein shake, but the meal is very heavy with meats, unprocessed food, meats, veggies, things like that. I have a shake that I do in the morning, not a shake, a power drink I do in the morning. I'll share more about that later, but it includes, what's it called? It includes apple cider vinegar, cayenne pepper, cinnamon, turmeric. It's like this concoction, lemon juice. It's this concoction I take in the morning, and it gives me energy, and it's like a natural fat burner, okay? So I'm basically, but the reality is, consult a doctor before you do any of the things I'm saying, right? I'm not giving you advice, I'm just sharing, but the reason that this is working for me is because of the rituals. And then what'll happen is, if I see something that's bad for me, a Snickers bar at the store or alcohol on the shelf or whatever it is, I then default into my ritual and I feel good about it. So it's like, I reject that shit, right? It's like, oh, fuck that. So it's like I feel so amazing. I feel awesome and great. Why? Why do I feel this way? Because I weigh 225 pounds. I weigh 225 pounds on or before. It's like, it's even before April 30th. And then when you're thinking of the calendar, when you're thinking of April 30th, make it physical, make it real. Picture a calendar. April 30th, we're now on the 6th. And there are these weeks there, and I got to check off. I need to make sure that when I go into the gym and I weigh myself and I take a photo, that photo is going to be less weight. Yeah. And then I saw today, it was like, I was 135 point something. So I didn't hit my 135 or less. It was 0.6, right? Unacceptable. So it's like, oh, I can't, like, what did I do? Maybe I need to it's like I need to change my workout routine or my plan. Like people keep talking about 10,000 steps. It's like I started today. I was on the treadmill and I was like, let me count these steps. Let me get a real sense from not only being at the gym, but like walking around, just being in life, doing my thing for the day. I know there's technology that can automatically count your steps, like a Fitbit or something. I got you. I understand. I'm just saying, and I already got this watch. I don't know. I'm just saying this is my process, right? I continuously, progressively improve the process, but it's through manifestation rituals. And you could do this as much as you want throughout the day. And someone else, I just saw a post, someone was talking about eating, and they said that they eat for purpose, not for pleasure. So yes, you want to eat things that taste good, right? But just these small little decisions are super helpful if you're someone out there that wants to change your physique or live healthier, this kind of idea. Okay? So I'm doing these manifestations. I'm like super confident, right? That I will absolutely I am so happy and grateful and excited that I am 225 pounds before April 30th, 2026, before April 30th, I see April 30th, 2026, and I'm pulling back how many days before that, but ultimately, absolutely by that date. When we go into May, hell no, there's no way I'm more than that. And even with that said, I'm more conscious and aware about possibly getting injured. Like, oh no, what if I got injured, right? So it's like, this is being used in the physical realm. What I'm working on and developing are, what about the other realms? What about the financial realm, right? What about mental or physical? Physical we covered, right? But so there's a framework there that's coming into focus. So first we're starting with the physical, then we're gonna apply it. This is a general physical objective, right? We're going to apply it there. We're going to go into other areas, financial objectives. What about overall organizational objectives? And that actually is going to lead us into accountability for today. I'm loving you. I've been loving you. Hey, that reminds me, it's for the next episode, because I'm going to show you, not tell you, but I'm going to blow your mind with a project that's coming online 1st of May. All right? 1st of May portal. Or was it 1st of May protocol? Something. We're working on the title, but it's this cool, it's a writing project that relates to a song that I've already made called 1st of May. And there is a framework in place and a strategy and a concept, but I'm going to show you, not tell you, but I will definitely tell you by the next episode, because we're rolling out as we speak. But before we roll that out, I need to cover accountability and then we're going to take off for today. Okay, so check it out. I've committed that last episode, I've committed that within this first 10-day cycle, all episodes of QUARLESS Chronicles will be out there and available, because we've been recording them, and they get, we record them on a live stream, but then we have the record and we tweak it a little bit, edit it front and back, and make sure the sound is good as best we can get it. And then we post it on YouTube and other platforms, Facebook, YouTube, any platform that we could put long form. The point is, by the 10th, we need to have episode 1 through, I made the promise last week, so 1 through 13 definitely. 14 is not a promise. We'll give it a try, all right? But 1 through 13, absolutely. They all need to be posted in long form, wherever that long form can happen. Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, okay? Other platforms, etc. Right now, as of today, just in terms of the video broadcast, 1 through 6 is now live on YouTube, so you can check that out. 1 through 6 is live on YouTube. On the website, we have, connected to the video, is the blog. There are 3 blogs, Episode 1, 2, and 3 are now available if you just want to go through and have a quick read, 2 to 5 minute. 5 minutes is a little long. Maybe, depends on how fast you read actually. Let's call it within 5 minutes, right? A quick read, and you can get a whole summary of what the episode covered. The commitment is, and it's a challenge because of upload and download times, transcribing, editing, all that sort of thing for the actual blogs. But the commitment, that's why I'm having trouble sleeping. The commitment is by April 10th, episode 1 through 13 will be out there, including all of the blogs. Also, I committed this last week, so I'm going to be a busy boy. All of my music, at least in the audio form, will be posted on all platforms, Facebook, YouTube, etc. They're available now on all music platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Jim QUARLESS, the artist. Check me out. You can find it there. But what we will do to make it just easier and accessible, we'll put out the audio file, as a video, MP4, but just the audio file on YouTube, Facebook, all platforms. All right, so it's out there, available. That's the objective. So by the next episode, episode 15, I'll be giving you an accountability report, and it should be smoking. All right, should be good to go. That's all we have for today. Thank you for spending this time with me today, for going on this sort of little spiritual, religious roller coaster. And I'm just sending you love, and I'm sending appreciation to the divine in whatever form it exists in. And I'm confident at that moment when I do check out that whatever is there, this is what you don't want. You don't want to get to that point and have regrets in terms of not trying to let your light shine as bright as possible. So that's what I encourage you to do, is tap into your good nature, believe in whatever that is, that God energy, the way it communicates with you, trust in that, the way it communicates with you, provided that it shares in the true good nature. Follow that, let your light shine. Believe that even the simplest act of goodness could transform the world we live in, because you did that kind act to someone who at some point in the future will have a very powerful voice or influence, and you're the one that influenced that person. So with that, I'm going to leave you. I love you, and I will see you soon. All right?